Well, spoiler alert, we got swept in the World Series. That didn't go very well. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They're really, really good. We had a miracle run to the World Series, and then the bats honestly weren't terrible. They just weren't good enough. And the pitching completely broke down, which is why it's going to be a really tough decision with a guy like Merrill Kelly. We traded for him. It was supposed to be a nice trade deadline acquisition. His contract, of course, has expired. He's 37 years old. Probably not going to be a Royal this next season. So he's going to go. But what about JD Martinez? I think he can still play. He was great for us in 2025 and especially was incredible during the playoffs. If we can sign JD Martinez to a cheap one-year deal, which we can, 1 year, $5 million, I think is a really nice idea for us. And even though we can offer him as an everyday guy, he could also be a platoon bat for us, but he still hits lefties and righties about equally. So, you know, I'm not really sure what his role is going to be. He's 38 years old now. He's someone that can slide down in the lineup a little bit if we want. I think his ideal role is anywhere really from 3 to 6 in the order. Probably sitting somewhere around that 4 or 5 spot. I think I would like to have JD Martinez on the team next year. Now, of course, this completely limits him to a DH spot. He's never going to play the field, and we already have a couple of outfielders who can only play corner outfield if they're going to be in the outfield, and basically could be DHs. Look at Nelson Velasquez. Look at potentially MJ Melendez, right? Who does have some more flexibility. Could play catcher maybe could play first base. But JD Martinez, he was so good down the stretch. I don't want to lose this bat. And then Aaron Loop, I don't even think ever made our team this year. I signed him anticipating that he would actually make the team. Never ended up happening. He didn't pitch well enough, so just he never made an appearance for our big league team in 2025. So he obviously is going to go as well. And then staff-wise, everything's locked up here with the exception of our farm director. Now, we could get rid of Vance Wilson. -3 stealing, I don't love. I think he's somebody that we deal with next season when the contract actually does expire. But our farm director is going to be a big one. We need someone who's really going to be able to develop our team, which I don't think actually does anything. I think it's more about, like, you know, just how these guys impact our current team. And I don't know. What do we want to focus on? -3 arm strength, I don't love. This is interesting. Juan Chavez, +2 to velo, +2 to home run per 9, -1 to bunting, I already don't care about, and +1 to arm strength. Could be good for our pitchers. He doesn't really want that much money. We could offer him a 3-year contract, see if Juan Chavez will end up signing with us. It's a possibility. And free agency 1 begins in 6 days. So we'll see what happens here. And JD Martinez, I'm hoping, will sign. Juan Chavez is our new farm director. And Hector Neris has exercised his option and will be making $5.5 million this season. Would I like to stop simulating? I will. But yeah, of course, he was somebody that was going to stay in our bullpen. He wasn't spectacular in 2025, but he was certainly good enough. And after a bit of a bad start, he really did bounce back. Gave us 76 1/3 innings. Fantastic. 3.54 ERA. Definitely good enough. It's not elite, but it's good enough. That's a really solid season, especially with the amount of innings that he pitched, over 76. Phil Maton, on the other hand, was super disappointing, but is still under contract for the next 2 seasons. We'll see if he bounces back. You know, the bullpen can be one of those things where, all right, you know, bad season, get a little bit unlucky, but 19 earned runs in 37 innings, that's not very reliable. In fact, even if you go back to 2023, he gave up just over 19 and almost double the innings. So we know he can do it. I don't expect him to be 2024 1.14 ERA Phil Maton, as I still always struggle to find a good place for the face cam. But we're going to keep him around. Neris, of course, still. Carlos Hernandez took a huge step up. +7 to hit per 9 in the 2025 season. Finished with a 1.5 ERA, whip at .7. Didn't really strike out that many batters, which is kind of what I expected he would do. Right? He's got electric stuff. I mean, you can barely see in the top right, but 99-mile-per-hour fastball, can exceed 100 easily with outlier. Power slider, big-time sinker, 12-6 splitter. I mean, he's got an insane repertoire, and you wonder, why does a pitcher with that repertoire pitch in the bullpen? Usually it's a control issue, and you can maximize what they can do in 1 inning, or maybe even 2, as opposed to 5 or 6. And walks, that can be a big problem. We talked about control. Typically, when you can just go out and throw an inning, it's not really a huge issue. But, if you're a starter that's walking a batter an inning, at least that's not ideal. Sam Moll we traded for. He's arbitration eligible still and was really impressive in 2025. But if you look at everybody in this bullpen, it's a lot of aging vets. Loizaga's been great. Asa Lacy could end up being a starter for us. Didn't show a ton in 2025. And then MacArthur, obviously, is our closer. He's a beast. But we'll continue to look at exclusive free agent offers here. So, JD Martinez, still mulling over that offer. Our staff is completely done. And now we'll simulate to the real free agency. And we've offered, what we're going to offer. So, not going to offer a true qualifying offer. It's going to cost $20 million for a year, $21 million. So, no. But we have unexercised club options remaining on some of our players. Tomorrow is the last day to exercise those. We'll check in there again. Team option for Aaron Loop, we'll decline it. We don't want him. I think maybe it would have done it automatically. But in the case that it doesn't, we've decided not to pick that up. Obviously, we don't want Aaron Loop. Now, what is the timeline on JD Martinez re-signing? I figured he would just go easily. It's 1 year, $5 million. It's not very much. But I don't know what he's going to get offered in free agency. We'll see, I guess. And a lot of players have become free agents. Bo Bichette, Michael King, Dylan Cease, Will Smith, Zach Gallen. A lot of really, really good pitchers have now become potentially available. Cole Reagans, of course, Cy Young winner in 2025 for us. He was a beast. Didn't pitch so great in the World Series, but it was amazing overall in the postseason. Kyle Wright was still good. Brady Singer was good enough. But can I really just feel good about Asa Lacy in the rotation or Chris Bubic? We could use another top-of-the-line starter. So we might be offering on somebody here in free agency that, we don't have to throw out Frankie Montas again or Frank Mazzucato, who's horrendous. Robert Gasser, of course, we traded for. Could potentially debut in 2026. And then Chris Bates, now just 19 years old, was pretty good at AA in 2025. He's someone that could end up making the team. His call-up, I think, provided everything goes well, will be in 2026 this season. Now, of course, we can also look at players we drafted this past season that are finally with the team. Daniel Crowell was supposed to be up to 99 potential. Injury designation didn't end up being quite so good. I think it would end up being somewhere in the mid to high 80s for potential. His overall was supposed to be mid to high 70s. Ends up being a 67. Not terrible, but he's still got some development to do. But not an awful pitcher. Just not much in the way of velo. I'm not really sure what his ceiling is going to be. But of course, a lot of these guys who have never made an appearance for us that we just drafted, these guys are going to have a chance to do big things in our minor league system. Ton Caballero, quite a long way to go. You look at the hit in the K per 9, horrendous. But 94 on the 4-seam, 91 cutter, 86 slider, 81 curve, 84 circle change. Big 5-pitch mix. Lefty on the mound. We got a lot of lefties in our system now. So our pitching could be elite in the future, but I'm not sure that we're tied down long-term to Chris Bubic or Asa Lacy or Montas, Mazzucato, Gasser even, and then Brady Singer and Kyle Wright I still have my questions about, even though Kyle Wright performed quite well. 15-10, Brady Singer 15-9. That shows you why, win-loss doesn't mean a whole lot. Two guys with basically identical win-loss records there, yet pitched pretty differently. 3.79 ERA compared to 4.52. It's nearly a full run higher. Not ideal. And then, of course, Cole Reagans was superb. But look at Bubic. Was basically the same or maybe even better than Brady Singer. Nearly identical numbers. Just struck out more. 8-11. Just got unlucky. Asa Lacy, 7-4, but 5.34 ERA. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. But free agency is open. Qualifying offers have been made to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kyle Tucker, Zach Gallen. What does that mean? They are allowed to negotiate with us. We can offer, but when we sign a player that received a qualifying offer, we will forfeit a draft pick to the team that they just played on. So Gallen, of course, Diamondback. The Diamondbacks would get a competitive balance pick, I believe, or maybe somewhere in the second round. It kind of depends, I think, based on the contract in real life. Pretty sure that's true. Now, other guys did qualify, but, you know, you can see no qualifying offer was made on a guy like Dylan Cease. Dodgers and Padres both going after him. He's 30 years old. Has been pretty good in back-to-back years. Very consistent. Oh, my goodness. 3.57 ERA on the nose in back-to-back seasons. And also was one strikeout away back-to-back years. Of course, higher K per 9, struck out more per innings pitched in 2024. Took a bit of a step back in that department in 2025, but pitched over 200 innings. Dylan Cease could be a good frontline starter for us to add. That could be money well spent. Michael King, also not a bad option. Wasn't particularly elite in 2025 as a full-time starter, but was decent. 5 years, $43.2 million is not all that much. Could also go out and get another monster reliever. Devin Williams is available. We've got some options. If you look at where we actually need help offensively, well, catching, it's pretty bad, but we might see Blake Mitchell debut in 2026 for us. Top prospect at catcher, big-time arm, has some power potential, is developing nicely. He could be somebody that ends up coming up. He could be our starting catcher here. That's a possibility. Salvi's aging, but is still performing pretty well. Had a big injury, that's why the numbers are down, but was doing great before he went down with a big injury. So I'm not sure we're going to go out and sign a catcher. Vinny Pasquantino, I think, is starting to turn it around. Could be, you know, a very good everyday first baseman for us. We have Juan Soriano in the minors behind him, so I'm not really looking at first base. Gorman really wasn't as good as I wanted him to be, but still popped, you know, 25 doubles, 30 home runs. 824 OPS is still great. I just need him to elevate to that elite status. Michael Garcia, obviously no problem at third base. Would like him to hit righties a bit better, but he's obviously a really solid option somewhere in our infield. And then at shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. So you look in the outfield, MJ Melendez is playing like an MVP. Jake Fraley is a decent backup. Arbitration eligible in 2026 this year. We need outfield, and we have some prospects that could fight to make the team, but unlikely to be this season. Morgan Gilly was our first-round pick, top 10 pick 2 years ago, but is still a decent way away. His arm is improving slightly, but in center field, I think that's one of those positions where you don't need a cannon of an arm the way you might in right field. I think range I would value a little bit more. He's got excellent speed, reaction, and fielding. You can get away with a lesser arm in center. You'd like to have a really great arm, but it's not a deal breaker. Nelson Velasquez is still so bad defensively, but can still really, really hit. Is just playing so well. 850 OPS, but is only a corner outfielder. Spencer Jones still probably a little bit of a ways away. But center field is kind of that position. We could look to sign somebody in the short term. If you look at the current center fielders available, you got Kevin Kiermaier, Cedric Mullins. You know, no one that I really feel great about, to be honest. Adam Duvall's got power against righties, but is super old. Regressing in a big way. Hitting okay still, but not sure any of these guys are a good fit for us. If Kiermaier is hitting, you know, maybe. And he actually is. 769 OPS. Hit near 300, slugged over 400. That's really not too bad. Kyle Tucker's in here. I mean, this would be a superstar level player to add, obviously. Braves and Giants are pursuing him. Of course, qualifying offer was made. Lane Thomas is here. How good is Lane Thomas? Lane Thomas had a really nice season. Could play center for us. Not amazing defensively. What was his WAR? 3.4. So that's wins above replacement. Like 3 to 4 is like all-star level. To 5 is like all-star level. Above that is phenomenal. 3.4 is a pretty good player. And we know he can hit a little bit. Defense maybe leaves something lacking, and it definitely would be a more apparent in center field. J.D. Davis really hit. 272 average, 372 on base, slugged 461 for an OPS at 833. Can play third, first, and left field. We could play him at third and then move Michael Garcia to second. And then Gorman, you know, something, but, you know, probably doesn't fit for us. But getting that bat could be pretty interesting for us. Vlad Jr. continues to tear it up in the video game the way he definitely is not in real life. He's good in real life, but just doesn't elevate the ball enough. Just doesn't really hit enough extra base hits for what he has the potential to be able to do. He could be a stud, but obviously doesn't play good defense. Bat is just so good, though, but a lot of huge offers coming in. I'm not really sure that's the way I want to go. I would probably have more interest in Josh Naylor, to be honest, who crushed it in 2025. I just don't know what he would do. We have Vinny Pasquantino. I'm not really trying to spend big money with where our roster is. I know we want to bring in some new good players. Will Smith signed a big extension with the Dodgers in real life. I kind of don't want to go after him for that reason. Gary Sanchez, Yankee legend. Not hitting enough, but man, power's still good. Ooh, Matt Strahm has really performed the last couple of years. We could use another lefty in our bullpen. That could be a decent option for us. Probably not thinking about 4 years. He's 34 years old. Maybe a 3-year deal. Probably not enough. Okay, what about 1 year and then up the money a little bit? Or actually even 2 years, 10 mil. That propels us to number 1. I think that's actually money well spent if we can bring him in. And remember, we could use another piece in our bullpen, especially a lefty, because Asa Lacy is not going to be returning to a long relief role. He just wasn't good enough. But if Dylan Cease continues to get the walks under control, walks per 9 going up +3, nearly to a 60 now, control above a 70, he could really, really hit that ace potential. I think it's worth actually going all in here to get Dylan Cease. 30 years old. I would offer him, you know, something in the neighborhood of 6 years, 100 mil. And that jumps us up to number 1 on Dylan Cease. That could be huge. Cole Reagans and Dylan Cease. That is a monster 1-2 combination in your starting rotation. So those will be my offers that I'm making so far. You can see our rookie class. Daniel Crowell, you know, we talked about very briefly. Don't know what his ceiling is going to be. You can see potential here. Roger Marrero is currently a starter. Could see him working out of the bullpen. 66 stamina. 34 hit per 9 is not great. Again, long way to go development-wise. A potential's cool, but he's 23 years old. So not stoked about that. Only C potential for Tim Boyer. He's never going to strike anybody out, but is only 18. So could develop quite a bit. I don't know. 84 stamina. Could be a good 5-starter. A lot of pitchers in this class. Ton Caballero. A potential. Only 18 years old. A long way to go. You can see how bad hit per 9 and K per 9 are. But home run per 9 is already pretty good. Stamina is already great. Another lefty we talked about could be a beast. Fernando Morales is a shortstop with incredible potential, but is already 22 years old. Does not hit. The glove's just okay. Again, I'm not sure what his future is going to be. We shall see. Franklin Ruiz is a reliever. Only a 57 overall. Only C potential. Doesn't throw very hard. Per 9s are just okay for a reliever. And then Thomas McCallum, another starter. B potential, but a super low overall. Again, long way to go, but electric stuff. Fastball at 98. Two-seam at 96. Could be something there. And then our salary arbitration deadline is November 23rd. And it's your entire team, pretty much, right? So Kyle Wright, arbitration eligible. Has pitched well. We're going to offer a lot of these players arbitration, especially the ones that I don't want to extend super long term. So Kyle Wright, we're pretty much just going to offer, you know, arbitration on all these guys. And we'll see what this, you know, where this ends up going. If you don't know arbitration, basically, a player says he's worth something. A team says he's worth another thing. You can see in their contract here. 2026 is ARB. So with the way service time in the MLB works, you come up, you're under contract. After, I think, maybe 3 years, you become arbitration eligible, and then you're eligible to get a little bit more money, but not as much as you could make on the open market in free agency. I think you have 3 or 4 years of arbitration, and then it basically a team of arbitrators decide if what you're saying you're worth is accurate or if what the team is saying is accurate. And in the end, probably none of it is. It's a really good way to underpay players. Jake Fraley. I like his platoon ability. I'd like to bring him back in 2025. He could really, really swing the bat. He can play still, 30 years old, still good against righties. I mean, the defense is actually great. Jake Fraley probably moves to be my starting center fielder this year over Kyle Isbell, but they could platoon. That's probably what ends up happening. We'll offer him arbitration. It's mostly going to be what he, around what they were getting paid last year. Kind of where I feel comfortable. Freddie Fermin had a good postseason run, but is really not swinging the bat well. But is not that expensive. The only time you really want to offer a big-time contract instead of arbitration, if you're going to extend through their free agent years, it can be a way to save money, but it only makes sense if you're buying up those free agent years. So if we were to offer a contract on Nelson Velasquez, the reason why his interest goes down when I extend the years is he's like, oh man, I could be getting paid a lot more than this, in free agency. That's why we could increase the offer. So a 7-year deal for Velasquez would make sense. We'd be paying him through his age 30 season, or through his age 34 season, excuse me. And that's a few years after he's free agent eligible. If he's still hitting, he'd be my everyday DH. So this actually could make sense. So we'll offer that. We'll see what happens. You can see it's kind of explained here. For the tender contracts, these players are under team control because they don't qualify for arbitration yet. These players are not tendered / offered a contract by December 2nd. They will become free agents. So tendered just means offered. And we'll see what happens. Pretty much going to re-sign everybody in here. It's a lot of younger players, a lot of prospects, of course. So basically for all these guys, we want to make sure they're actually on the team. That's all this is doing. It's just 1 year, $90K. And he's, Chris Bates, who's, I think, the #1 prospect in baseball, will just probably sign that. That's the way this works. But you actually cannot see it right now. But I believe he is the #1 prospect in baseball, for example. But because he's never reached the MLB, service clock not ticking yet. So you can get these guys for, pretty much anything. All right. We got some news. Dylan Cease is a Kansas City Royal. It is a monster contract, but we have a two-headed monster at the top of our rotation. Cole Reagans, Dylan Cease, what an addition to the team. So let's talk more about him now that he is officially a Kansas City Royal. He plugs in as our second highest overall player on the team. Yes, 30 years old, in his prime really. 79 hit per 9, 83 K per 9. Walks per 9 is getting better, close to the 60s. 74 home run per 9, 86 pitching clutch, so performs better with runners in scoring position. 73 pitch control, 81 velo, 97 break. You can see the pitch mix over there in the top right. 96 on the four seam. Also features a slider, knuckle curve, and changeup. Dylan Cease's contract is $16.7 million every year for 6 years. It's actually a pretty team-friendly deal with how dominant Dylan Cease has potential to be. Not going to offer much with the bat, obviously. If he ever hits, we have a deep problem. But electric stuff on the mound, and probably features some of the best swing and miss stuff in all of baseball. And if you can, force swing and miss, you're going to be a pretty good pitcher. And Dylan Cease certainly is one of the better ones in baseball. Great addition to our rotation. New highest overall pitcher, Dylan Cease, get in the rotation. We also signed Matt Strahm, 79 overall for the 34-year-old. Still getting better, by the way. That's a rarity. Is pitching a lot of innings and is shutting it down. 1.87 ERA. 1.83 ERA the year before. That's your earned run average. How many runs do you allow per every 9 innings pitched? That's exceptional. So our long relievers are settled in. Asa Lacy, I mean, we're going to have him for spring training. Does he make the team? I don't know what to do with Asa Lacy, to be honest. He's not performing. It's only 1 year. I don't know that there's a big spot for him in the rotation. That's another problem. We might run it back with Chris Bubic, to be honest, so we'll see what these guys are able to do in spring training. But Bubic right now is ahead of Asa Lacy for me. We'll see if anything changes. And JD Martinez is back. 1 year, $5 million. Very cheap. He is 38 years old, but still swinging the bat pretty well. So hopefully he's able to do the same. Even though he's getting worse everywhere, he can still play well in 2026. He's going to be valuable for us. And those are all the players we've offered on. I don't really even know what else we would need. In terms of actual depth with the big league team, well, Blake Mitchell is going to be at the MLB level. Salvi is going to be at the MLB level, probably. I don't know that we really need depth from free agency. I think we have it already in our system. So I don't think we need to go out and do anything else, to be honest. I think we're good. Center field is just going to be Fraley and Isbell. Isbell against lefties, Fraley against righties. Change his position to make that a little bit more clear. We're also going to be working out Juan Soriano in the corner outfield spots a little bit this year. He's got an electric bat, especially good against right-handers. Has a big arm, though. That's why I think he might be able to work in the outfield. Not a ton of range. Pretty much a DH/first base. 23 years old. No pressure to bring him up this year, but I could see it happening if we need a bit of a spark. If Vinny Pasquantino's not, up to his expectation, we could potentially bring up somebody from the minor leagues. And Juan Soriano, with his A potential, I could see realistically getting into the 70s this year. His potential is 94. 94 overall potential for Juan Soriano. That could end up being a very, very good player for us. Bo Bichette is headed to the St. Louis Cardinals. $14.4 million per year, 5 years, 72. And the Tigers are offering us a trade. Garrett Hill or Hector Neris. Hill's 30 years old, has 78 hit per 9. Has not played in the majors each of the last 2 seasons. I'm going to say no to this. But there might be something there with Garrett Hill. Doesn't look terrible. We also are going to have to add players to our 40-man roster so that they don't get scooped up in the Rule 5 draft here in about a week. So, Gavin Cross, I definitely want to add to the 40-man. He's one of our top prospects. He's hit well in the minors. He's 25 years old now. But I certainly don't want him moving, to any other team here. So we're going to add him to the 40. Robert Gasser as well. But right now, our 40-man roster is full. Who's at the bottom of this that, we're never going to consider? Steven Cruz is on the 40-man. If somebody drafts him, they can have him. But Josh Taylor, we're going to remove from the 40-man. No, we offered him arbitration, so we can't. That's right. Devin Williams to the Blue Jays. 5 years, $34.5 million. One of the better relievers in all of baseball. And I believe our 40-man's in a pretty good spot here. I don't really care about losing any of these guys to the Rule 5 draft. If you guys don't know about the Rule 5 draft, basically anyone that is eligible for it that has either A, been in your system for long enough, or B, is not on your 40-man roster, of course, can be picked up by another team. But the catch is that they have to have them at the big league level the entire year, or else it defaults to the team that, of course, you took them from. So, no prospects because they don't meet the requirements for being in the system for long enough. And we could actually participate in the Rule 5 draft by opening up a spot on our 40-man. With Will Klein was one of the top players that we could have lost to the 40-man. I'm thinking Jake Brents I probably don't care too much about. Yeah, let's take him off the 40. We've offered him arbitration as well. Okay, we'll take Will Klein off. We added him back on, but he's off. Just on the off chance that a good player happens to be in the Rule 5 draft, we'll get a chance to draft them. Cardinals are interested in offering us a trade. Or not. I thought I clicked on it. Will Klein gets claimed off waivers. Not really too worried about that. Ryan Helsley to the Bronx. 4 years, $32.8 million. Another one of the top closers in baseball. Headed to a new team. Chris Paddock is back to the Twins. What else? No big news, to be honest. Vlad Jr. could be headed to Cincinnati. This is a really close race. Reds, Orioles, Padres all trying to get Vlad Jr. Could even be more teams as well. Kyle Tucker could be on his way to joining the San Francisco Giants. Gallen to the Yankees. He's a New Jersey kid, I believe. So could have grown up a Yankees fan. Yankees throwing out money this free agency. Diamondbacks trying to bring in Josh Naylor. Lane Thomas could be headed to Queens. Will Smith, the catcher. Blue Jays emerging as a favorite now. Wow. And Will Smith is headed to the other side of the border. Toronto, Canada. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Will Smith will be a Blue Jay. Kyle Tucker to the Nats. 9 years, about $182 million. Over $20 million per year for Kyle Tucker. And that is a good deal for a guy that's going to hit, 30 home runs, 30-plus doubles. Play pretty good defense. He is a great player. Nationals couldn't extend Juan Soto. They bring in Kyle Tucker. And Lane Thomas is headed to the Angels. That feels like such an Angels signing. It's less than $10 million per year. 4 years, $37.6 million. Again, a pretty good contract. Lane Thomas, definitely a solid player. And the Nats are not done. Josh Naylor joins Kyle Tucker in DC. Yeah, he's pretty sick. 316 last year, 25 home runs, 80-plus RBIs. And it's not that expensive. And Gallen does, in fact, join the Yankees. 6 years, $130 million. One of the best starters in baseball. Still just 30 years old. But it's looking like our Dylan Cease contract is going to be the steal of free agency at just over $16 million per year. Zach Allen, not much better, making, $5 million more per year. Same contract length as well. The Dylan Cease contract was a good one. Rule 5 draft this week. But we have the draft lottery first. Well, we played in the World Series. We have no shot. But we'll see who gets the #1 overall pick. Mets, Rockies, Nats, Blue Jays, White Sox, all in a really good position to potentially get that #1 pick. We'll see what happens. And the Brewers jump up 10 spots to #1? What? What is this? They had a 1.4% chance to get the #1 pick. And now they have it. Rockies hold it 2, White Sox up to 3, Mariners up to 4, Red Sox up 2 to 5, Cubs up 7 to #6. A less than 1% chance for #1, but they end up with the top 6 pick. The Mets drop all the way down to 7, Nats down to 8, Jays down to 9. Oh my goodness. What a wild draft lottery. Will, of course, be at number 29. I mean, who did they pay off to jump all the way up to #1? Just over a 1% chance to snag that? Something's up. That is absolutely out of control as we'll move to the Rule 5 draft. We are Rule 5 draft eligible. Of course, won't be picking for a while because of how good we were. And we are seeing some notable players get picked. And by notable, you're not going to see too many stars, but some names, Evan White, former, hyped up first base prospect for the Mariners. Tony Santillan's pitched with a number of different teams, namely the Reds is where I think about him with, but he's never particularly good. Rafael Sanchez in here. There could be something with him, and we might not draft anybody. We're just going to take a look. Because remember, they have to be with the big league team the entire year if you want to keep them. Jose Suarez. This has not been very good. Tell you, Mason Black might not be the worst idea to add to our farm system, essentially. If we just, keep him on the big league roster and then send him down next year. But he's already 26 years old, so unlikely to do that. I think we're just going to bypass our pick and simulate the draft. Tommy Edman to the Giants, 5 years, $60 million. Very versatile player, can play really all over. Great speed, great defense, and a pretty good bat as well for the switch hitter. Phillies offering us a trade. Taijuan Walker for Elijah Green. Not a bad offer, honestly. Taijuan Walker could potentially join our rotation. Was pretty good in 2025. Pretty good in 2024. Can give us innings. This is an interesting deal. Now, we'd have to move Elijah Green. 71 overall, 22 years old. B potential. Ooh. This would be a good win now move for us. Just, do I prefer Taijuan Walker to Chris Bubich? I actually might. That's the thing. This is a very, very interesting deal. Bubich, I guess, could be a long reliever. We're paying him through 2028. What's the Taijuan Walker contract? Making just under what Dylan Cease is making. It's a rental. Elijah Green is not as good as some of you might think here, but I still don't think I'm going to want to do that. It was really close, but the jump up isn't significant enough, in my opinion. Jay is offering us a trade. Yariel Rodriguez for Phil Maton. Maton was bad last year. Do we really want to, you know, sell low? Maybe not. Yariel Rodriguez, very, very old rookie, has not pitched well. We're going to keep, you know, Phil Maton. We'll keep that experiment alive for a little bit longer. Vlad Jr. is still not signed. Red Sox in the mix. Nats is still in the mix. The Nats are spending money this free agency. I mean, Vlad Jr. has been incredible. Willie Castro finally has some offers. J.D. Davis, finally some offers. Kershaw's in here. I mean, he pitched well in 2025. I mean, it's a big name. No one's offering him. Oh, it would be so cheap. I mean, for 1 year, like $3 million, $2.5 million. I'll offer Kershaw a contract. What's the problem? Like, why not at that point, right? He's super old, but he went 12-0 with the Dodgers in 2025. Even got a save. Worked out of the bullpen. That's really interesting. Pitched so many innings, though. 113 innings on 0 starts. What is happening? All right, well, the arbitration hearing for all these players is not going that well for me. All of the arbitration panels are siding with the players and not me. Not the team, not the Royals. So we're paying these guys a lot more than what I wanted to, and the Nats do make a splash again. Vlad Jr. headed to DC. That is a pretty insane signing for the Nationals. I mean, the Nats are looking to be a really, really good team. Let's take a look at this roster. They had so much money. Their top 3 players are all new additions and can all really hit. They lose Lane Thomas, but they bring in Vlad Jr. They bring in Josh Naylor. Maybe Vlad to third. Maybe one of these guys DHs. Naylor back to the outfield. Kyle Tucker, of course, in the outfield. But in one free agency, to bring in your third highest, second highest, and highest rated players, wild. And Luis Arise, he also is a new player with the Nats. So they had money to spend. Like, that's for sure. They had nobody on the team who was even good at all. But, I mean, they've gone out and they've really got a new team. James Wood should be rated way higher. He might even debut in 2024 in real life. Brady House is crushing it. Another top prospect. Currently at AA for the Nats in real life. Also crushing it. Really, really good hitter. And we signed Clayton Kershaw. It's super weird that he's not going to be a Dodger anymore, but the Dodgers didn't want him. Kershaw wasn't done, and he's headed to Kansas City. What is his role going to be? I have legitimately no idea. I see that he's regressing quite a lot, but, I mean, for the price, 1 year, $2.5 million, why not? It's worth $2.5 million to figure out if he could be good for us. He could be our 5th starter. He could move to the bullpen. I don't know, something. And as we get here to spring training, we have some big extensions potentially going to be due. Michael Garcia, Nolan Gorman. Nelson Velasquez did not accept the extension. Instead, took the $1.6 million in arbitration. I guess that's understandable. But it'll be a very interesting season. Dylan Cease, ready to make his Royals debut. Probably will make him number 2 in the rotation. But he and Cole Reagans could be a dominant duo. The big lefty, the big righty. Full bullpen right now. Should be fun. Well, it's spring training, so we have a lot of pitchers up. And look at all the lefties I have, by the way. We are so lefty stacked in this organization. Not the worst thing, to be honest. Always looking for more lefties. But we can also do with some good righties. Top prospects. The new list is out. Chris Bates has dropped to number 4. We'll see if he can reclaim number 1. Chauncey Pryor is the new number 1 prospect in baseball, an 18-year-old third baseman in the Cubs system, with a last name they've seen before. Mark Pryor, although not spelled the same way. Christopher Burnett is the number 2 prospect in baseball. I remember wanting to draft him. He does look pretty good. Obviously, a lot of development to be had. But that would have been a really nice pickup for us. He is number 2. Eno Sims, a closer. Yeah, okay. Number 3 prospect in baseball. That's stupid. And it's funny seeing all these players I looked at drafting, like Becerra, like Jude Torrero especially. Ton Caballero is a top 10 prospect in baseball, though. At number 9 is where he debuts. Where are the other Royals? Blake Mitchell at 22. We have Rhett Park at 30. Haven't really talked much about him. Best case scenario, he's Jose Ramirez. Worst case scenario, he never debuts for my team. He's only a 63 overall at 22 years old. Does have great potential, but I'm not sure he's ever going to reach that. A lot of development to be done. Elijah Green, kind of the same deal with him. Probably not as high of a ceiling either. Bobby Montez is number 35. He's a lefty who has decent enough stuff that it can play up to some strikeouts. Do I ever think he's going to be a big strikeout guy in the majors? Not sure about that. And then what else? Daniel Crowell at 53. We talked about him. The injury designation stuff maybe not super great, but I think he's got a pretty high floor. 22 years old, 67 overall. Could be a good player for us. Juan Soriano, big potential power bat against righties. Maybe a platoon guy, 23 years old. Will likely start the season at AAA. We have Spencer Jones in the outfield. The bat's just not there yet at 24 years old. Puts us in a bit of a tough spot. Roger Marrero at 66. Starter with decent-ish strikeout stuff, but is already 23, maybe more of a control artist. A lot of these prospects, it's tough for me to visualize these guys being good. Like Morales, 22 years old, great potential. Will he ever be good? I don't know. Gilly's a fringe top 100 guy. He can make contact. He can play defense. He can run. I think he should be rated much higher. He will end up being a solid pro, I think. Maybe not a lot of power. And then Frank Mazzucato at 99. A lot of guys in the top 100. Again, what is Mazzucato's ceiling for us? He potential 73 overall at 23. He could come up this year and be a starter for us. Real potential for that happening. But that is the offseason. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'm ready to see this guy's debut, even if it's just spring training in the next episode. See you in the next one. Take it easy.